Oh, something happened.
Oh, now we lost. Oh, that was weird.
I don't know what happened there.
All right. This is Mike Linner from CarShowNationals.com. Let's roll. And with Johnny Bohmer. And tell us a little bit about yourself, Johnny.
Where do I start? Just a guy that likes to go fast and been racing stuff, something pretty much my whole life. Just enjoy cars and motorcycles, man. I've been doing it a long time.
So this morning you were powerboat racing, or you went out, or?
No, actually, this morning, Lucas Oil, who is one of my really good sponsors, see their stuff behind me here. They actually are sponsors of a boat that is going to set a world record today. It's running right now as we speak. It left Palm Beach and it's going to the Freeport, Bahamas, and it's going to go there and come back. Hopefully today they set a new world record. It's a 54-foot long, about 11,000, 12,000 pound twin turbo, about 1,500 horsepower per engine on race fuel, twin engine, twin turbo, twin engine. And it's all carbon fiber hull, and it's insane. It looks like a spaceship. And and they got throttle. Those boats, you have to have a throttle guy. You got to have a navigator. You got to have a tiller guy. It's everything's critical mass on those things. When you come out of the water, you got to let up on the throttle just a certain amount as you go airborne between waves.
Wow.
So this boat's really cool. It's red. It looks like something you'd see out on the Bonneville salt flats. It's just so long and sleek and aerodynamic. So we met yesterday. Super nice guy. The boat goes around 150, 160, which people say, oh, that's not that fast, but it is. But the big advantage it's got is this boat can go that fast in rough seas.
Wow.
So in the lower, if there's not a lot of wake out there, if it's pretty calm, the other boats like Miss Geico and those guys, they go 200 miles an hour. They pretty much eat his lunch. But if they get out and it's wavy, then he makes up the difference big time because of his monohull. Well, guys run cats, so cats trap a lot of. There's an air pocket there. They hit a lot harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about your car, your famous car, right?
The bad GT. Yeah. Well, it's an interesting story. I bought the car brand new, and I'll tell you the whole story, and you'll have it on record forever. So when they said they were coming up for sale, I really wanted one because when the commercial showed the white and blue GT ripping around a track before Ford even actually released the car, and I knew about the Ford GT40 when I was a kid. That was the car, that was the historical car that beat Ferrari. Which, by the way, that movie's coming out. I don't know if you've seen it.
I was going to ask you if you're going to watch that one because I'm sure.
Hell yeah. I know a lot of the backstory on that. It's funny. I'll tell you a little bit about some of the backstory that actually was very interesting yesterday. But anyway, my car, remind me of the backstory about the GT40. But my car had, I wanted to buy one. And, I'm not a rich guy. I work hard. I had a heavy equipment business, and I raced motorcycles and had a little Harley shop and stuff. And did a bunch of different things, and always had a hot rod, always buying and selling and fixing stuff. And when I was a kid, I raced dirt bikes. I raced not competitive go-karts, but we had all go-karts. We'd put big engines in them. I raced motocross. My brothers were professional motorcycle racers when I was a kid, flat track. So I was around that stuff, and had a lot of bad wrecks, but had fun doing them. So I wanted to buy one of these cars, and I was lucky because my business did well enough that I could afford to get one of these cars. And when they first came out, they were, when they first came out, they went up to like $500,000 because people were going crazy over them. And then it settled back down to like the sticker, which was like $175.
Yeah.
I went down and bought the white and blue one they had at Wayne Acres Ford. And after I bought it, the owner decided he wouldn't sell me the car. And I was like, dude, you better find me a car. Now, coincidentally, he still has that car. It's got about 250 miles on it, and he wants like $1 million for it now. But anyway, I threw a fit. I said, I want a white blue. Ford GT. And the guy goes, they looked around and found one, and they brought it down, and I was happy with that, that resolution, but it took them like 3 or 4 more weeks to get it. And it's funny, when I bought the car, there was a salesman there named Tom Donlin. He just passed away a few years ago. Super nice guy. One of the most knowledgeable car guys I've ever met, period. As far as knowing about racing and like all the Le Mans back to, 1950. He knew all the historical races, all the historical drivers. He knew all the NASCAR drivers. This guy was an encyclopedia for racing. And he was the salesman for this place. And I bought bunch of Ford dualies from him. And matter of fact, the dually I got now, I bought from him. So anyway, he just said, why don't you make this the fastest car in the world, Johnny? And this was in 2006. And I said, Tom, I'm going to do that. And I was, I was half joking. He was half joking, but I was half serious as well. And so I thought, well, this is the car to do it with. I looked at the car. I saw the aero on it was ridiculous, and it would probably be just an absolute incredible car to go fast. So I thought about, well, this would be a great car to do some standing mile stuff. At the time, the world record was like 210 or something, 215. I think 217. Later, a couple years later, I think the Supras are in the a little under 220. That was still quite an emerging car, the 2JZ Supras, So big power, big single turbo. But anyway, I bought the car and I brought it home. My wife says, "What is that?" I said, "It's a Ford GT." She goes, "Well, where did you get it? Take it back." I was like, she said, "We ain't keeping that." So anyway, I kept the car. And I've got a big garage that's full of motorcycles now, but I had a really nice shop set up at had a machine shop stuff in the garage. And I had the car a very short period of time, and it was all apart. I had people come over, and, this was like a car that most guys bought and put in a bubble.
Right.
Mine just laying all over the garage, just laying out in the driveway. Figuring out how to mount turbos to it. There was nothing available for these cars then. Nothing. Not one thing. And I ran into all kinds of problems because nobody made anything for the car. So fast forward a little bit, I ended up building a twin turbo for it. And there was no way the clutch could hold it. They have a twin disc clutch, but it was just completely inefficient. No, it was a single disc. I'm sorry. Factory clutch is a single disc. So I went to Spec Clutch, met with them, guys in Element, super nice guys, sent them over a whole clutch basket. And I said, we got to make something that can handle, at the time, I said, 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 horsepower. I didn't know what it was going to end up making. And so we went back and forth, and we developed a big billet clutch, which to this day is basically the same clutch I run now, except that we've made it stronger because my car kept getting more power. And so I solved that problem. Then I had axles breaking. I was going to drag strips a lot with the car, and it was quite a scene to go to the drag strip. I'd go out there and bust a low 10, just not even trying with the car, which was, pretty fast in like 2006, 2007.
Right.
Especially with a stick shift. There's obviously faster cars. Since then, once I got the car really dialed in a few years later, I started getting some really good quarter mile times. But I quit drag racing it because I continued to break gearboxes. But back what I was saying earlier, I started breaking axles, so I had to upgrade axles. It's the old, the chain's only strong as the weakest link. So every time you upgrade one thing, you've got. So it's been an evolving process of redesigning every damn thing in that car to handle that type of power. Now the Ford GT is probably the best supercar. Not that I'm biased, which I am, but it is the most incredibly well built supercar. And the engineers at Ford will tell you why. When they built that car, they had to build it in 24 or 18 months or whatever it was. And they overbuild. They always overbuild a vehicle in prototype design. And then after they get it all fixed, they run it and they start taking, well, we can take 10% of the weight off here. We can save some money on this. And they bring the stuff back. They back into it. They didn't have Ford GT. So it came out as like a truck, pretty heavy car, 3,600 pounds. But I broke axles. I broke a lot of stuff. So I got the axles upgraded. We went through a lot of R&D with that, with a couple places. Drive Shaft Shop ended up making some stuff that worked, and ended up getting the car down the mid-8s in a quarter mile, which is really fast.
Yeah.
But the fastest pass I ever did, I broke the gearbox. It's the last time I ever drag raced it. Took it to the drag strip. The gearboxes are unobtainable. They don't make them anymore. Ford never sold parts for the gearbox. They only sold the gearbox.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a problem. So I had to a lot of stuff, and then the gears, the factory gears weren't strong. Now backing up, I'd already redone the gearbox with straight cut gears, so I made it a dog box. So it's a lift and shift, wah bah bah, that type of thing. So new shafts, everything. The outside case was the only thing that was still stock. And then I kept breaking internals, and we'd make a new billet piece here, new billet. Pretty much the transmission now is an all billet 9310 heat treated straight cut gears. The shafts, everything are just super badass. The case is the only thing in that transmission that's not that's from the original car, and it's a weak link in the car with the kind of power I'm making. So car makes 25 to 2,700 horse. It's hard you can't really dyno it. So did Ford ever reach out to you or try to work with you or try to help you figure stuff out? Nah, I approached them several times about me wanting to be the first car to go 250 miles an hour, and it fell on deaf ears. And the problem was with Ford is that by 2008, 2009, when I really had the car together, the car was together, running, going to car shows, in the basic configuration I have it now. Ford had quit making the Ford GT. They only made 4,038 or something like that. Somebody can fact check me. I'm not sure how many it was, but when they're out of production, Ford no longer sponsors a car that's out of production. That's their policy. So anyway, I wasn't able to get a sponsorship for them. They knew what I was doing. They did offer me a lot of help with transmission specs, CAD stuff, to help me work my way through a lot of the problems I was having. A funny story is around, when was that, Brian? 2008? When was that interview? 2009? You found it the other day.
Oh, yeah, it was, I think, Supercar Week 2009.
Yeah, 2009 Supercar Week. I was at at the time, I think, like the biggest exotic car show in the country. It was down in Palm Beach. Supercar Weekend. Pretty big deal. You might have heard of it. And it was a pretty big car show, hundreds of Lamborghinis and Ferraris and all that. And I had since all this had happened, I also bought a Heritage Ford GT, brand new. So I had the Heritage Edition, which I left the blower on that car. That car was one of the funnest cars I've ever owned, because I took the blower off. I put the biggest Whipple you could get at the time was a 3.4 liter. I put a 3.4 Whipple on it with a small pulley. It was making like 21 pounds of boost. Had to make mechanical tensioners for the front of the motor. And that car, it was making 840 or something like that, rear wheel horsepower. But it was right now. I mean, you can't even say right now, and it was there. Thing was a drifting monster. I used to go out, there's videos of me. We'd just been going through the archives of just going to places and just ripping that thing. I'd go to like Home Depot down the street from me and pallets and stuff, and I would just do these massive 80 mile an hour turnaround donuts, and just with forklifts next to me. People used to freak out. I park it in a spot. I could sit there and I'd pull up to parking lots, man, and be aiming the wrong direction. Bam! And I'd nail that thing, land right in the spot. Look like you knew what you were doing. Car had so much power. It was so quick. It came on so hard, and the way that transmission hooked up, it just was like a professional drift car, And I had fun with it. But I had both those cars at that car show, and I'm not sure if it was that car show or another one, but one of the Ford guys came up. I'm not going to mention his name, but he's pretty well known. And I was talking to him about getting sponsored. and he was like, well, we don't sponsor cars that are out of production. And he says, I've heard all about you wanting to go 250. At the time, I've been saying I wanted to be the first guy to go 250 and one day, go 300 miles an hour in a car. Man, I got laughed off the internet so hard. It's amazing that I haven't fallen out of this chair right now talking about it. People thought that was the most outlandish shit they've ever heard, to go 250 mile an hour in a streetcar. I'm telling you, they thought that was insane. At that time, 217 was the world record,
Mm-hmm.
and I was talking to the Ford guy, and I said, and it's on video. Some people videotape it. I said, would you be interested in this, that, and the other? I want to be the first guy to go 250. He goes, well, Johnny, we know all about what you're doing. And he said, I recommend you stop. It's completely impossible. Ford spent over $10 million in wind tunnel testing and modeling programs. And we determined through a massive amount of money that the terminal velocity was 228 miles an hour. And he said, you're not going to be able to go over faster than that. I don't care what you do. The car's aerodynamics will not allow it. He said, and I said, okay, well, I'm just a dumb redneck and I don't have a wind tunnel, so I'll just keep on plugging away. So you go right ahead, but that's where it's going to stop. And it was discouraging because I had a lot of really smart people that you assume are very smart because they have very high educated, backgrounds. But people that don't do stuff, you can't say you know how to do something if you've never done it. And a lot of people don't know how to do stuff. They just read about it and they rely on a laptop and all that. And I didn't have any of that stuff. So I just said, I'm going to keep on plugging away. But I did have a lot of engineers. I had one engineer tell me, you're going to hit a cotton wall at 250. You're going to hit all these people. And they scare that, they try to spook you, and you hear nothing but negative and impossibilities. It does work on your brain. You got all these really smart, what you're going to do is impossible. So anyway, make a real long story short, I was at, not too long after that, in early 2010, I was at the Miami Mile, or one of those races down there at TNT Airport.
Yeah.
And I went down there several times. I'd already won a few races in the car. I'd already gone 220 or something like that, and won one, which was, everybody's freaking out because that was like really fast. And I was at this race, and Ford had brought 5 Ford GTs there. There was a couple thousand. There was probably about 300 competitors, maybe 500. I don't know. There was a lot of people there. There was a lot of spectators there. Yeah. And the word was out. I was trying to go 250. Everybody's saying, and the Ford guys were all there. They walk around. They're coming and looking at my car, and it's lower. I've made a bunch of changes to the aerodynamic structure of the car. But I had a big advantage on them. I've been running the car at high speed, several different tracks. Went Texas Mile and shit like that.
Yeah.
So they were there that day, and make a long story short, their fastest time was 217 mile an hour in their fastest car, and I went 252. The internet exploded. The internet exploded. I got a call from YouTube that at that time in 2010, it was the fastest growing YouTube they'd ever had.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
It was going up 10,000 views an hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, by today's standard, that's probably nothing. But then it was like a precedent-setting deal to go 250 in a street car with air conditioning, tag insurance, the whole deal, just a regular car. Of course, it's Ford GT. Those guys came over from Ford. They were looking at my car and they were going, "What did you do to it?" I said, "What did you do?" And I said, "Well, I didn't listen to you." And they walked in the car and they're going, "What's this? What's that?" And I had another guy, Matt Lundy. He was my crew chief, and he and I pretty much built the car. And they were just asking both of us lots of questions, and we kind of just said, "Well," and they couldn't believe it. I mean, everybody thought the timing slipped. And I had the video that came out, Mike, and that's the video. It showed. Luckily, I had a Smarty Cam in the car, which is tied into the ECU. Big stuff. It's tied into the whole telemetry of the car. It shows the shift points, the RPMs, the mile an hour, the time, everything. And all that was there. So it was undisputable. I actually went faster then actually they clocked me, and I actually hit 255. But they were using Jaguar equipment, which usually is more accurate, and it'll shave a little bit off. And we also had GPS base that said 255, but we took the 252.292. First car to go 250. That just blew everybody's minds. People were flipping out. The car community was upside down. So it's pretty funny. And I'll tell you another part of the story that I'll tell it. It really doesn't matter. But that day, there was a guy there with a really fast Porsche. His name's Eddie Bello. He's a pretty crazy guy, really smart mechanic. And he had a Porsche that was, running, well over in the 220 range. Yeah. And a little 911. And he was determined to beat me because I beat him at the previous race we were down there. And he was trying to, hit some big number in the 230 range. And he was having a cookout. I was getting lined up to go run my car. He was having a cookout, and his grill tipped over. I don't know what happened. Something happened. And we're down there in the Everglades in Florida, and it's dry. It was in March, so it was already a dry part of the year. All of a sudden, you got a huge fire, and people are running for the hills. Luckily, there was like 2 giant fire trucks there because there were, people racing. Yeah. And so I see all this smoke, and everybody says, "Man, we're done." It looked like a brush fire. So they managed to get it out, but in the meantime, while they're putting it out, we thought, well, this race is over. I hadn't even got to do a big pass yet. And so we had some Jack Daniels there, and said, hell, let's do a shot, So I did a shot, and, we're sitting there talking, and then I did another shot, and we had like a bottle of Jack on the roof, and we're all getting a little bit, snockered up. I had 2 shots in me, which gets me buzzed pretty good. And, next thing you know, man, the guy goes, "Johnny, you're up." I said, "What?"
Great.
And they're like running around. Lundy was saying, "Get him some coffee. Get him some coffee. He's drunk." So I'm half drunk. Not like falling down drunk, but I had a buzz. Yeah. And then they're telling me I'm up, so I didn't have my gear on, nothing. They got the fire out, and the race was back on.
Jeez.
Because they had told us the day was done. That was the interpretation we got, was that they weren't going to get this fire out, and they were going to have a hard time. They were worried about people even getting out of the damn area.
Yeah.
So anyway, I suited up, put on my helmet, and got in the car. And if you watch the original video that was on YouTube, do we have that up anywhere, Brian? Where's that up?
It's on the JBR YouTube channel.
Yeah, if you go to Johnny Bohmer Racing YouTube, what's it called? What's that one called? It says 252. It's a really cheesy little video, and it's Performance Power Racing before Johnny Bohmer Racing. It's got the V in it with the checkered flag, my old logo. Anyway, it shows that you watch this video. That's the video that went like viral on YouTube. Well, the kid that did the video, his name was Isaac Gray. Really, really good kid. He worked for me for a while, and he was pretty sharp guy with the computers and the cameras and all that. He made this video in like an hour. He grabbed all the footage, he combined it, and he was subtitling it. And I missed a gear in that run. Like I went first to second, I missed third gear, and the car was wild back then, and it was making 1,800 horsepower back then. It was still fast, but it was, and he puts in there, Johnny's driving like he's drunk. Of course, I was. I was buzzed pretty good, and I just into it, but a little shot of whiskey doesn't hurt anybody. The drag strip, everybody drinks, do a shot of whiskey. So anyway, I ran the car. It had the subtitles, said I was drunk, and ended up setting that record, man. And that video was a pretty popular video for a long time.
Ed's trying to get through, and I'm trying to figure out how to answer it.
All right.
I don't know.
Can you hear me, Mike? Lost you there, Mike.
This is only America.
That's all right. But I don't think, I don't think it'll go very far.
It'll be out there forever, so.
Will we tell them to take it out?
That's your call, dude. That's your call. I would say that. I don't know. I think it's your call, dude. I like the story. I think it's a great story. I find it hilarious. But I don't know if it needs to be out there for the entire world to see.
Well, it's 10 years ago.
I guess, yeah. I guess
It's 10 years ago.
It was 10 years ago.
I'd already be out of prison from that. So time served.
You're not wrong.
I don't know. There's nothing here. I don't know if this thing's still going or
I don't
not.
know if he might have lost you. They're getting a good afternoon. You know you should do. Now that there's a break, go change t-shirts real quick.
No.
Like a bright red